Hello, today I'm going to do a couple of journal pages in my large Strathmore Visual Media Journal. Haven't used this for ages and I really miss using this large size page. I've been following some prompts in the Joggles Art Journal Adventure Facebook group. Fallen way behind. I'm about 10-12 weeks behind now, but there's no pressure to catch up. But there was a couple of prompts I quite like, one of which was mystery, and I've got this really cool Sherlock Holmes MDF shape that was from a company called Things to Alter. It doesn't exist anymore, but I really need to use this, so I thought he'd be perfect. And there's another prompt which was incorporate a list, so I'm thinking we're going to have Sherlock on one side and a list on the other side and make a double page spread that hopefully fits together. We'll see how it goes. I've started by getting some scrapbook paper here. This is by Kaisercraft. I quite like the ledger, and the fact that this has got numbers on it, that's going to be the start of my list on this side. So I'm just going to stick this down with some Americana decoupage glue. So we'll get that down as our first layer. Right, so that's our first layer. If you're wondering, this is just some deli paper that I've put so that if I get any paint or anything going over the edge, it's not going to affect any other pages. I'm not too bothered if there's little bits lifting up. There's going to be paint and stenciling and all sorts over it. So this stuff dries pretty quickly. Give it a quick blast with the heat tool. So because I'm doing a Sherlock themed thing, I want some nice rich Victorian colours. I have some Americana paint here. I've got True Red and Dark Chocolate, and I'm going to mix them together and hopefully come up with a sort of a deep, rich red colour. And then that's going to be the first layer of my background. So we're going to roughly paint some of this onto the page. I want to be able to see some of the detail of the paper showing through, but not a lot. It's just a bit of background interest, to be honest. Just going to thin a little bit of the paint down to create more of a wash over the central panel so that I can see more of the pattern showing through. Just add a bit of water in there and with the acrylic paint. And we'll just blend that out a bit. And on the other side, because I want to be able to use a list, thin this paint down even more. And we'll have a thin wash of colour on this side. I want the two pages to feel connected, but they're going to have their own identity at the same time. a little bit more water. And that's our first layers. Now again, we need this to dry. It won't take too long, but I'll use the heat tool again. So for my Sherlock page, I've chosen this stencil. It's by Joggles and is called Curvaceous. It's really nice. It's one of their large 9x12, which is perfect size for these pages. But I want a sort of a Victorian wallpapery effect, and this was quite a good pattern, I thought. So I'm going to apply some paint through it using a sponge. And for this, I'm going to mix together the dark brown that we've just used with the red and with a touch of black to get a dark colour. And then we'll put some gold highlights on it afterwards, I'm hoping. Right, for this, I'm going to use a scrap of deli paper just to take the excess paint off my sponge. Don't worry, it's not going on my page. Don't have to be too precise, but I don't want too much paint because it can seep underneath the design. And then you lose some of the definition, and it's a shame. Not being too precise here. Yeah, it's not a work of art, it's my art journal. Saw a really good quote this morning on Facebook. There's a thread in the Art Journal Adventure group where we're all complaining that we fell behind. And somebody made the point of, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not a coffee book table. It's my art journal. And it's quite true. Yeah, okay, you can see this on this video, but if you're doing this at home and it all goes wrong, it doesn't matter. I know I'm just going to feel so much better for actually getting something down on the page. It's been such a long time since I've done this, and I really do miss it. It's a nice place to try out ideas, try out different techniques, use up things that maybe you know, they've just been sat around for ages. I mean, I've had this MDF Sherlock Holmes for about 12 months now. And, you know, I was so keen to get him. I thought, oh, I've got loads of ideas. And, you know, it's sat there in the box. So now he's going to be immortalised on a page, which is brilliant. So, there we go. That's the first layer of our wallpaper. I'm wondering whether it's just carry on a little bit on the other side. Keeping more with the washed out look, so I'm not putting any extra paint on here. We'll just see what we've got left on the sponge, just to get a fainter image, but to follow on this pattern a little bit through into the second page. I have no idea whether you can hear. I can hear the neighbours singing. Let's hope he's not on the video when it's finished. You never know. So I think that might be enough. Just gives a little bit of continuation, which is really good. So I'm just going to pause this a second and wash my stencil off. Right, I've cleaned all the paint off my stencil. I wanted to do that because I want to use the stencil again and this time some gilding wax. This is the Metallic Luster from DecoArt in the Gold Rush colour. There's quite a few different ones of these on the market. This is very similar to the Cosmic Shimmer ones, the Enka Golds. It's a nice creamy wax. It's a water-based one. So I'm going to just line up my stencil over where I put it the first time, and I think I might just offset it slightly so it will get a bit of a shadow. So I mean, where if I line it up and then move it up and to the right slightly, when I apply this through the stencil, and I'm just going to use my fingers for this, obviously we should get like a black shadow showing. I'm not going to do the whole page. I think that might be a bit too much. So I'm just going to pick areas to highlight with the gilding wax. I think that's probably just about enough. But yeah, that's brilliant. I don't know if you can, if I do this, you can see the sheen, get the light shining on it. It's a really nice effect. On the other side, I don't think we really need it. We've only got a very faint impression of the pattern, but I'd like a bit of gold, so I might just rub a bit around the edge. Again, it's just keeping the two pages linked in some way. And there we go, that's the gilding wax in place. I'll just wipe that off my hands and the stencil and be right back again in a moment. Next, I think I'm going to do something with Sherlock here. He's a silhouette, so I'm going to paint him. I've got some of this black and brown paint left that I stenciled with. So I'm going to give him a coat of that. And then possibly put a bit of gilding wax around the edges, just to brighten him up a bit. Again, I'm trying not to give too much thought to this. You can really get stuck with journal pages if you overthink it. It's supposed to be a bit of fun, it's sort of creative exercises, it's getting you to try things. So I could sit and worry that, you know, this isn't perfect, but I really don't mind. It doesn't have to be. So I just need to let that dry, and then I'll edge him with a bit of gilding wax. Right, so I've added a bit of gilding wax around the edge of this now that the paint's dried, and I think he still doesn't stand out very well. So I've took a bit of scrapbook paper that I'd got. It's a double-sided paper, but it's got these letters and postcards on one side. I'm thinking if we place Sherlock on top of that, he'll stand out from the page a little bit better. I just want to darken down the torn edges there. I've got some black sort of distress ink and a foam applicator, and I'm just going to age it down a little bit around the edges. That's much better. Just put that away. I think that's a much better thing for our Sherlock to be sat on there. So we'll glue that down. You could use the decoupage glue that we used earlier to stick the paper down. I'm just going to use some all-purpose glue, and then I can use that for stick the MDF shape down on top as well. Earlier on, I've also die cut some letters using a Sizzix alphabet die to spell out the word elementary. And I've used some dark green pearlescent cord here, which I thought might coordinate quite nicely. And make sure we've got all the letters. I'm going to decide how we're going to fit it on. I think we're going to have it curling up and around. Need to start a bit further down to fit it all on. Always make sure you can position your letters and things like that before you stick them down. Otherwise you guarantee you're not going to have enough room. I quite like that, I'm happy with that. I'm going to glue those down with my glue. I find it easier sometimes to press down over a piece of paper, because then if any glue comes out it goes on the paper, not your fingers, and you're not transferring it everywhere else. This glue is pretty good. If you get some that oozes out, you can rub it away afterwards. And we'll just let that glue dry. I think the page is almost done. I just want to edge it with a bit more of the Black Soot Distress ink, I think, just to finish the page off. So just going in with my foam applicator. I think that looks a lot better. And that's my mystery page finished. So moving over to the list page, I could list things that Sherlock might say, but I think I'm going to list myself a few prompts to stop myself getting bogged down in my journaling. There's some important things to remember. Like I said earlier, it's not a race. It's a personal thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I think the first important thing is to make time. So make time for your art. Second thing, you don't have to do it all, you just have to do something. So pick a theme. There are lots of places to pick themes from. I'm following prompts in the Art Journal Adventure group. There's quite a few prompts out there in Facebook groups, websites, blogs, books. Have a look at things that you've seen other people make and just get inspiration from them. Don't worry about it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So don't worry. That could be number 3 on my list. Do what makes you happy. Don't have to do what somebody else says. Do whatever you want to. So how should we put that down as a item in our list? Be yourself. Like I say, it doesn't have to be the same as somebody else's. There is no right, there is no wrong. The important thing is to just get started, isn't it? So most importantly, I think it's just to create something. Create something. So there we have it. And maybe enjoy in big letters, because that's the most important thing. Enjoy. So that's my list. Kind of feel it needs something else on there. It's a little bit bare. Maybe I should get a stamp something. I like this stamp. It's like a big doodly flower. It should go quite nicely with the background we've got there as well. So we'll just stamp that up with some archival ink. For anyone who's interested, the stamp is Joggles Doodle Flower number 1. I'm really happy. I haven't completed a journal page in a good while, and here I've done, you know, 2 in the space of half an hour. I really like the gold highlights that are on this one. See if we can catch the light and see that a bit more. That's really nice. And that, you know, it's simple. I could go in there with a white pen. I might do that in a bit. I could go in there with a gold pen and highlight those. I don't have to do it now. But yeah, just if you've been thinking about it, if you maybe in one of these groups and like me, you feel you've fallen behind, you know, just go through the list of prompts. Don't look at them all, just pick one at random. And just do it. Just do something, and you know, you'll feel much better. I feel much more able now to take on another prompt, and hopefully I'll do a little video of that when I get around to it. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.